it occurs to me, as we have done this now twice,
Yeah.
that I need to either make a newer opening that doesn't have the 1 minute lead in or something.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't end this broadcast because if we do, we would start all over again with all the settings. So, with that said, that's your opening right there. Hi, I'm Guy.
You know, you could always play it now.
I am playing it now.
No, you're not. Okay.
Well, no, you can't play it because it'll start with the 30 seconds.
Oh.
1
Well,
minute.
see, then you can give everybody a countdown. Like, give them time to go get a sandwich.
That's true. Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you've gotten your sandwich and then come back, we could just start the show. So,
Right.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Troy, and we're live, I believe.
I'm Chelsea.
And this is Geek Tank.
That is totally live right now, actually. I just got the Twitch notification.
Yeah, the plan was to record this and air it at 8, but you're just going to have to come back and watch it.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, come back and watch this again at 8 o'clock.
And pretend like we're, live and stuff like that at 8. It's all right, guys. It's
This
all right.
rolled into our theme, though. It totally rolled in.
We will totally fix this in post. It'll be fine.
We keep meaning to fix our ratings and our fan base in post, too, which doesn't seem to happen.
It never happens. No, it's fine.
So
it'll just be 30 copies of each of us.
Yeah, we were doing this because we needed Chelsea. Chelsea had missed the last 2 shows, and we were eager to have Chelsea on another show. And so she had family members who decided to ruin that plan for tonight.
In town. They always tell us like the day before. So,
yeah. So we had this brilliant plan of, hey, let's record the show at 1:30 and then air it at 8. And that went well.
So well, in fact, that you're already here, or you're later here. Who knows?
Welcome back, Chelsea.
What may be even funnier is that it may be on Twitch, but it may not be actually on Facebook. So those of you on Twitch are like, like time shifted.
Like, what is happening right now? Oh my God. Anyways, I wanted to talk about bandwidth in a new way because we've kind of talked about that in the still COVID times, and now that we're kind of getting into the everything is opening and it seems like everything is okay, oh my God, at times, I thought we should go back to it because it was Festa this weekend for BTS, which means it's the anniversary. It's the 8th anniversary of their debut. So yay, happy Festa, happy Muster as well. They call it Muster when they have the concert.
Is that Festivus?
I wanted to kind of talk about
the rest of us.
Yeah. Tonight, Emily is unfortunately in the Springs right now because she is trying to sell her house and find a new one. In the middle of term, she is also trying to graduate by November. So she's doing well. Life is just chaotic for her. So I didn't get to see her this weekend. I'll probably see her next weekend, hopefully. But I will. I have a lot less. I'm just gonna say it. I have a lot less bandwidth for bullshit right now. I have a lot less tolerance for hate and for people not being patient and for people being unkind. I've been a BTS stan now for 4 years at this point. It has been 4 years that I have stan BTS. It has been 4 years that I've posted things that I've been excited about K-pop in general. I've been an anime fan since like I was 15 years old. So that is literally half of my life. And my bandwidth for bullshit is now nil. I've been trying to figure out how to make this post on Facebook for like friends and family because I've gotten comments from like, oh, when are their balls finally going to drop so their voice is lower, to why are these men so pretty, to this is manufactured music, to all sorts of just nasty comments, including like, oh, this song has la 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 in it, like great lyrics, way to go BTS. Like, first of all, fuck you. Second of all,
Chelsea's back, guys.
Yeah, welcome to. It's great to have Chelsea back.
I'm a little more fiery than I usually am because, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people have found things that they are passionate about, that they are now into, that they have accepted as part of their life, and that they're really excited to share with people. And I, for one, when I share something with people, I kind of have this expectation that respect is going to be the bottom line. And if it's not, then I am taking you out of my life. Because if you can't respect me and the things that I like,
I will use a term
get out.
that you taught me. You taught me this term, and I love this term so much. You do you, boo. I mean, that's my feeling on this.
That and don't be a dick. Like,
I know, right?
That's the biggest thing
Wheaton law.
Right now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, why did you click on the video?
Everybody's coming out.
If you send me a video and I click on it, then I will know at the end of that video, more than likely, possibly before it ends, whether it's for me or not. And then that means next time you send one and I see it's by the same thing, I just won't click on it. I'm not going to bother telling you that unless if somehow it offends me politically. Then I might say, hey, please stop sending me this stuff or put me on a no send list. I mean, I recently had to realign who could see what on my Facebook because I was getting tired of friends arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And it became a, you know what? If this was real life and I invited somebody to a party and all they did was complain about the food and the company and the events, they would not be invited back. And that's how you avoid that.
I mean, my feeling here is that Dreamcatcher is better than BTS, and that's just my personal
I do like Dreamcatcher. Right now, my current field is Mamamoo. I love Mamamoo so much now. And Jessie, it has been on constant repeat. Like, I played BTS for Festival, but right now it's all Mamamoo and Jessie. And also, we need to talk about Twice, because what happened, okay? What happened to Twice? They became adults all of a sudden, and I don't know what happened.
Really weird. Twice, the newest Twice. Well, and to a degree, I'm not that happy with the newest Dreamcatcher album either, because it looks like they're taking a sea change, which okay, they can, but still. And then Red Velvet's like coming apart at the seams, and I don't even know what to do.
This is something that you can do. Every single thing that comes out, everybody was like, "Oh, it's BTS's anniversary. Like, are you going to be watching all the concerts?" And I was like, honestly, no. I don't have time right now. It's the busiest weekend since I got back from camping, and I'm just going to catch clips on YouTube because there will be clips, and that'll be fine. I don't need to consume every part of BTS concert. I don't do that. Like, did I buy the McDonald's meal? Heck yes, I did. The sauces were great. McDonald's, please keep those sauces because they're so good. But like, people were selling bags for like $60 on eBay. I was like laughing along with fans who like washed their container tops and made them keychains because that's what they wanted to do, right? They wanted to commemorate the event. And I love them because they're ARMY and they're doing fun things with their creative wins. Did I tell them that's dumb? No, because honestly, it's super fun and I like people who make things. I love people creating things. So I'm not going to piss on their enthusiasm.
Is that still the thing with the bags? Are they still really hard to get for people?
They're really hard to get. Yeah.
I took a picture of one that was destroyed on the ground. I was going to send to you and say how sad. Because some people, I mean, people are not everybody. I don't know what the percentage is, but clearly not everybody knows what BTS or Korean pop is, and therefore it's like it's a McDonald's bag. And unless if you know what they are, you can't even tell by looking at the bag because it's really tiny on the bag.
Yeah, they didn't make it very present. I mean, it's very uncharacteristic of.
There's McDonald's
really
merch though.
That was very downplayed.
Do you know if Emily got her bag or not?
I think she definitely got the meal. I don't know if she got a bag or not, so we'll have to see.
Okay, because I managed to get one.
I'm still waiting to hear on that because
I managed to get one, and Taryn, of course.
I'll be happy to put it in like a photo frame.
Taryn's like, we need to sell it for lots of money. I'm like, well, I've got friends who like the band. I'd rather just give it to a friend who likes the band.
That's my feeling too. I'd rather because I got one too, and I specifically got it pretty much for you and for him, and that's where I am on this one. I'm like,
that's so great. See, that's how you support your friends. You're like, I have friends who like this. I don't like it particularly, but I'm still gonna like go out of my way to show appreciation, right? I had a very tense Memorial Day all of a sudden where we were having a great time and I put on some folk music. This is folk music, okay? And my family had a very adverse reaction to the point where somebody commented that they needed a Tool and Metallica cleanse, which actually just pissed me off. I was so furious. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. If it's not your cup of tea, that is fine, and you can let me know that. But don't be a dick about it. Are you serious?
This is completely like, this is what the Trekkies have been going through, right?
The Trekkies go through this all the time too.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a post about Discovery, everybody comes out of the woodwork about how horrible Discovery is, and it's like, like Mary Wiseman. Mary Wiseman's been she played Tilly. She's been very vocal about a lot of things because they pick on her for her weight. They pick on her for all kinds of stuff.
Ooh, I will fight for her.
Oh,
that's freaking ridiculous. Are you kidding me?
You have got to see what she does to those people. She burns them. It is beautiful. God. She is elegant.
So rude. Like,
it is terrible.
How dare you? How dare you? And also,
that's just normal chatter for this. What gets me is every time, like, StarTrek.com will put out something about somebody doing something that involves Discovery or Picard or Lower Decks, they come out of the woodwork about how terrible and how it's thank goodness Discovery's being canceled and all this stuff. And I'm like, Discovery's not being canceled. It's been
like, re-upped. Old news, honey.
And it's like, where are you guys getting this from? But it's like, we were saying this before, where they wish so much for this bad thing to happen that they believe it. They actually legitimately start to believe that Discovery was so bad that it was canceled. And isn't that great? And I'm like, no, it's not.
It's like there's not enough fun stuff in their life that they have to fill it with stuff they hate.
Right.
So can't you go focus this energy on something you like?
I'm part of a number of Star Trek groups. One of them is a Star Trek the Original Series group. You're not allowed to discuss anything but the 79 episodes. You can discuss the 22 episodes of TASS, and you can discuss the first 6 movies, and that is it. If you post something next gen, they take it right out. It's gone.
Oh, and it's dear Lord.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm totally cool with that. That's in the rules. That's a discussion top. I'm good with that. So I joined that group, and I'll post stuff that I've got from my archives that are from like 1967. We're good. We're good. I totally can follow that rules. But it's, that's my thing is, if you're not liking Discovery, make your own I Hate Discovery group. Stop getting on the Discovery page and ripping it. And we've got so much of that. Hey, Joan.
I think they basically should have condemned them to have to listen to whatever music you wanted to play for the rest of the evening. And at that point, you should have put on William Shatner's greatest hits. Make them listen to that.
I have that album, by the way, if you need it.
It was just like, I was furious because this is coming like directly from my family, and I've already had to deal with a lot of like douchey comments as well regarding K-pop. Like, can y'all not be rude? Because the thing is too, like, I was raised by theater hippies, like some of the most tolerant people I thought in the world. But as I get older, like, don't idolize your parents because sometimes they can be idiots.
Yeah, I'm thinking of this now. Since humans by nature are cliquey, well, I wonder if this knee-jerk reaction to attack things is a way that they're primally trying to seek out others. So they're trying to find something to share a hate of, to then group together and bully on that one thing.
How about maybe just don't?
Right. Yeah, but how about evolve and stop being a...
Agree with Joan.
I don't mind talking about things. Like I said, I don't mind talking about things. You can say, like, this isn't really my cup of tea, but I understand you love it, and I'm glad you shared it with me. Yeah. That is fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Mariah said, don't yuck someone's yum.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless it is actively harming somebody. If it is actively harming somebody, if somebody is like, alcohol is my jam right now, and you're like, yeah, but you're drinking like maybe 4 times a week and you are not sober, we should talk. Like, you have to remember that nothing is ever black and white, right?
No.
Yeah, but we have to have an intervention for Chelsea because she's ODing on BTS.
Right.
I expect respect. I cut someone out of my life, and he was like, why are you doing this? And I was like, I didn't even give a response.
Nope.
He was so done. I was so done.
I know the person we're talking
with the
about.
Toxicity.
It was me.
The toxicity.
It was Troy. You had
and
to like
the pain
Troy
and the ridiculousness. Like, you need to stop. Get out of my life. I have warned you enough. I have tried to help you enough.
Wait, that's not how the song goes.
Well, and this brings like the social media thing too, right? I don't have notifications turned on for Facebook anymore because I was looking so much for gratification and seeing the amount of like, it is actually detrimental to my mental health. I went into a spiral again of depression and anxiety and panic attacks. It still hurts.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And Facebook's not a good metric for that, because half of the time people who want to see your stuff don't see your stuff because of the way it filters.
Right. So I engage about work. I engage about everything else I'm passionate about. And I have slews of likes and comments. And I comment about K-pop.
Right.
And it's the usual people. It hurts.
I can't hug you through the camera, Chelsea.
I was going to say, I want to like give you a hug, but I can't.
I don't know why it's so emotional right now, but like.
But it builds up.
Well,
you have an entire year and a half of pressure on top of you.
Yeah, I was going to say that this seems totally justified to me. But I mean, it's like, but it is. It's rough, and that's one of those things where I've been trying. I went through a spiral where last year about this time, I had to swear off of Facebook, and I dropped out for 2 months through my birthday. I just recently saw a whole bunch of posts coming up that were, you remember 1 year ago when this was a thing? And it's sad because I didn't. I swore off of it, and they were all wishing me happy birthday and wasn't on Facebook.
Out.
And I had bowed out of it, and I was only on Instagram, which I have really worked hard to cultivate, which I'm noticing is killing me, by the way, because of course the rule of Instagram is when Chelsea friends me on Instagram, I'm supposed to friend Chelsea, except then I go look at Chelsea and I'm like, Chelsea's posts are not art, so I do not friend Chelsea. And
right, because otherwise the algorithm's going to get you.
Oh
no, I'm fine with that on like Instagram. My biggest fight right now is to get my Instagram account back because it got hacked. It's been like a month now. I've been actively trying to get it back for 6 months, but of course, COVID times, you got to be patient. But I do understand the algorithm, right? Like, you definitely don't want to friend people who are abusive in their comments. You want to basically cultivate your feed exactly that way. And it's hard with Facebook, right? Because I can't section off like, here's all my work stuff for tabletop. Here's all my Star Trek /Geek Tank /convention people, because they all kind of fall in the same category. Here's my K-pop kids. Here's my video game nerds. Here's my book readers, right? I can really do that on Discord. It's a lot easier in that social media sense. I don't get the same, like, I don't know. It's the dopamine thing, right, too? Because brain is already messed up because I have depression, right? And anxiety. So I need that dopamine
every so often.
Hit to a point. But at least on Discord, I can have a conversation, and that's per se, I'm looking at likes instead of feedback. So Facebook just needs to go, honestly. It sounds like I just need to rip off the Band-Aid, but I use it for work. So I do still need to kind of post and talk to people that I don't see very often, because that's, the easiest way. Other than that, it's like making my own Discord and just monitoring like all the commentary and being able to be in a space where I can actively talk with people who are just as passionate and not going to like absolutely rain on the parade, right? I expect like constructive criticism, right? With like the whole debut of Butter. Butter for BTS is their second English single. It is a fun little summer bop. Does it mean anything? Absolutely not. But I will instantly compare it to Bruno Mars' 24 Karat Gold, right? It's just fun. It's a nonsense song that is fun, that is cute and poppy. These songs do exist. Not every single piece of music can have utmost meaning like Black Swan does for me, or like Hurt by Johnny Cash, right? Like Twice as Likey hits hard once you know what it's about, but it is a tough song to listen to because boy is it pop heavy. and it is more like,
and especially if you watch the video and you watch it and you're like, oh, they're just talking about, and then you find out what they're talking about, and you're like, that one gets deep quick. I actually hated Likey until I actually
until you heard it in Japanese.
Yeah, that's right. I had to hear it in Japanese, and once I heard it in Japanese, I'm like, crap, that's what they're talking, because I don't speak Korean, so I don't know anything about what they're saying when and then I saw the Japanese version of it, and I'm like, oh, because I do speak Japanese.
Like every time you like something and you post about it, I always feel the need I have to over explain to people why I'm enjoying something, and that is literal hell.
Yeah,
that is actually hell. It is why, like, if you want to have a conversation about why I like something, that's fine. But like, if I have to feel the need to explain myself to you because you have a reaction of just like, oh, ew.
Yeah.
So I've been like really sectioning out basically a lot of my social media and making sure that I'm in a positive space because I need that positive headspace. I understand that to a point I am living in a vacuum. I am okay with constructive criticism. I'm not okay with dickery.
So there's something
vileness.
I'm starting to observe that happens with people now, and it's a matter of acceptance. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently, how important acceptance is. And I'm not just talking about, accepting, I accept Troy or whatever, I accept you or whatever, but it's more along the lines of accepting people even when you don't understand. We don't have that in our culture anymore. Like, you and I, we connect all the time because we're both K-pop fans. But I came to K-pop from a different angle than you did. Right. And I never really got into BTS. It doesn't mean I don't like them. I just never got into them. I listen to them and I think they're cool and I'm okay with it, but they're not my top band. On the same token, you've got BTS where you don't have something, but it's the fact that I accept that BTS is important to you. Even though BTS isn't important to me.
There's always a conversation, right? It's always like sending music back and forth and talking and being active in it. Like, I'm not living in a vacuum where BTS is the only K-pop band.
No, of course not, because you know who I'm talking about whenever I say Dreamcatcher. When I say Dreamcatcher, you know who I'm talking about. And we're talking about Twice, and we're talking about all the other groups that are out there. We are in the Zeitgeist. But what I'm talking about is there is a real need for humans to belong. We need to belong, and we need to belong to each other. And I think sometimes people just, they really want to wield the band hammer for some reason. Like, you don't belong.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that hurts. That hurts a lot.
Oh, it hurts so much. I get the comment often, and I've had this since like middle school. It was like, oh, there's Chelsea, she's the weird one, right? And it's always like, why is it that I'm weird? Like, just because I like something that you don't understand, that you could perfectly well have a conversation with me and learn about. Like, you could at least try. This is the point. Sure. There needs to be effort, right? And this is part of why people are like, oh, well, like, why do you want to move abroad? And I was like, because I want to get away from just this closed-mindedness. And when I go abroad, when I was in Iceland, talking to people in the airport, talking to people in Scotland, people are just so much more accepting and want to talk about things and want to get to know you as a person than meeting somebody kind of new in the United States. I feel, I just feel like there's such a need for nastiness. They need to categorize you, and you are either in their category or you are out, and that is it.
But I really. I wish you well on this one. I fear you won't find it. Mostly because I thought the same way about Japanese, but there's a thread.
Yeah.
There's a thread of the Japanese that
there's always that like down. Idealistic expectation.
And I mean, I always tell the story about when I went to Kyoto with my dojo, and there was some guy we were in this open air mall with my dojo mates and everything like that, and we were going to go to karaoke. And this guy at the end was yelling something in a megaphone, but this is my second year there, so I didn't speak enough Japanese to understand what he was saying. So I was like, I want to go over there and talk to them. And my entire dojo formed a cauldron around me and moved me off. And it turned out that he was one of those who believes that Japan's going downhill because of foreigners. And everything is a foreigner's problem. And every problem in Japan. And they knew that I would have been in a fight if I'd gotten over there. And my dojo we're all Kyudo. I mean, nobody's younger than 40. They're all like, we can't get into a fight. We'll break everything, So they were like, we can't. So they had formed this phalanx around me and moved me out of there. And I'm like, what? I don't get it.
But it's like, if we're going to fight, we want to be 30, 40 feet away.
Right.
Drop arrows into them.
But it was, but I mean, you'll find them everywhere. I think that our problem is, we've been here long enough now that we've been here through the changes of our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Our friends started out accepting.
Oh, that's rough too.
And now they're changing, or they're growing, or they're switching, or they're moving. And we still have them, but they've moved on to a darker place. And some people are just there temporarily. Some people move there permanently. But we're still stuck to some of them. I know we're talking about the same guy, you and me. I know we're talking about the same fella who I'm having a problem with as well, for a similar reason.
Just basic human decency, right? Like the core values of me, don't often change, and when they do, it is slow. I'm always open to new points of view and things like that, but there is a point where bashing your head against a metal door is not good for you anymore.
Mm-hmm. To some degree, though, I have come to the conclusion that I need to be accepting of that as well. And that'll make me less stressed out.
Yeah.
And that was something I sort of had a realization about a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. I posted something about it on Facebook, but I was thinking about, in this particular instance, I was thinking about a friend of mine whom, you have to be able to accept people for who they are, even the weird or even the scary. On Facebook, I'd posted about this, a friend of mine who came to open school when I was in open school, and she had a black mohawk. She was a blonde, but she had dyed her hair black, and she had leopard spots dyed into the sides. She'd shaved the sides really short. She was wearing leather with chains. She had hit puberty before all the rest of us, so she was like freaking 7'9", because all of us were really, really 5 feet, right? And so we have this monolithic woman who looked adult, right? And we're talking 7th grade, right? So she looks like an adult. She's wearing chains. She's wearing leather. She's got goth makeup going for her, shaved and everything like that. We all just stayed the hell away from her because she was terrifying. And then I was working on an astronomy club, and she comes to the astronomy club and sits down, and she's like, can you tell me about Jupiter? How many satellites are around Jupiter? And she used the word satellites, not moons. And I realized at that moment, I'm like, you're a nerd. And she was an epic Trekkie. She was an epic space geek. And what had happened was she'd gotten into so many fist fights in her previous school that she adapted this persona to block everybody, because she was getting into fist fights for being a girl nerd in the 80s. Well, I immediately was like, dude, you're my friend.
Oh my God.
So within 2 weeks, she's wearing NASA patches and Star Trek patches on her leather. And then within 6 months, she was in a jean jacket. Her hair had grown back out. It was blonde. And she was just a perfectly normal person.
You broke her.
I broke her, but she was accepted. And as soon as she was accepted, she could let that guard down.
Yeah, the person you were seeing wasn't exactly who she wanted to be. It was who she felt she had to be as armor.
Right. It was
exactly. Considering it's Pride Month this month,
it's good for you.
It is good for you.
Are they nicotine patches? You put it on to get your daily fix of NASA?
It means that you then get to be part of
a daily hit of O2.
Yeah.
So with it being Pride Month, I think there's another form of acceptance that we should probably talk about. And this is something that I kind of knew in the back of my head, but I really had like a light bulb moment, and I realized, a lot of people online get upset about pronouns and people changing their pronouns or saying like, I'm this or I'm that. You do have to remember that people are trying to figure out who they are pretty much constantly until they die.
Mm-hmm.
There was a man on the news last night who recently came out. He's 85 years old, and he finally came out. And he just said it was such a relief. It was such a joy to finally be content with oneself, right? A lot of people right now are playing with pronouns, playing with different names because they are not sure what they are or who they are, what gender they are, who they'll be, right? It's just like trying on careers. You do have to be patient and loving with people and making sure that you call them by the right names and the right pronouns. I feel like it is not difficult to take a step and accept someone for who they are and are trying to become.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think that's good for them, you can honestly talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, not being a dick about it, right?
Right.
Like,
well, and that's
I've had friends who are like, well, you present as very feminine a lot of the time, and then you go full tomboy. Like, do you want to use they, them? And I was like, this is complicated for me because I really do identify as a woman. I like being a woman, but I like being a tomboy sometimes. I don't think they, them is for me. I don't think he, him is for me. If somebody called me sir, I would not be upset, but that is me personally. You can't do that with everyone with my pronouns of she, her, right?
I feel the same way, except in reverse. I mean, I feel like I'm not effeminate. I've never felt effeminate. I've never felt like I wasn't male, but I feel like I try to do a lot more like connecting with my feminine side. And so when Amanda, our lovely and esteemed boss of the convention, calls me part of her Valkyrie group, I actually find that to be very prideful. I take a lot of pride in that, but I don't need to be a they. I'm not a her. I'm not, I'm very, very definitely male and stuff like that, but it's the same thing.
Well, one of the problems I see with it is that, especially for guys in my age group, is society tried to very strictly say, you're a guy if you do these things, these specific things, not anything about how you identify or feel or how your biology is. If you do this thing, then you're doing that. And therefore, if you're a girl, you must wear pink. If you're a boy, never wear pink kind of thing. And I think it wasn't until Miami Vice with Don Johnson where that finally got broken a little bit because we had Don Johnson wearing pink in that. But I would always joke as in my early 20s, it's like I missed school the day that they taught boys how to spit and how to love cars.
Right.
And identify cars, because I never picked up those skills. It was just nothing I ever cared about. But
I missed the spit day, but not the car day.
Yeah, you got the car day.
I got the car day.
Apparently, it's one of those things that it was a guy thing to like, hey, look, there's that car, and it's that make and that model and that year, and it's good because of X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. That never was important to me. But if you were into that, and like if you were a girl, then it would be like, why are you into this? You're a girl. Type thing. And even not being into cars at that point, I'm like, wait, if you're into cars and you're a boy and you like girls, don't you want the girl to like the cars too? I don't understand why you would.
I would hope you have some things in common. Like I understand that like you shouldn't have everything in common, right? Because you should be able to talk about things, right? Like I do not want to be a lawyer, and Tyler very much wants to be a lawyer. So
and like my wife is a geek. That's important to me. Mm-hmm. Because I have wallpapered this house stem to stern with little teeny starships. Yeah. And if she didn't at least appreciate it, there would have been I could wallpaper this office and that's it with little tiny starships and we'd have a problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
there's give and take, right? It's always give and take. I can't get Tyler to sit down at a table and play tabletop games with me all the time, but he will every once in a while because he's reaching out. I won't go to every single metal concert that he goes to because I don't like all the bands, honestly. But every once in a while, I'll be like, yeah, let's go to this band and I'll hang out for a little bit and I'll drive you home.
My wife doesn't particularly care for J-pop or K-pop, but and I don't really particularly care for the 60s, 70s music that she listens to. But we can both agree on 80s music. And so we're good there. So the general household music will be 80s music because we can agree there.
Oh, I do want to say something that's really cool is I live in a really tiny city compared to like other cities.
It's really tiny.
It's very tiny. I always think of like in the Legend of Zelda, when you can walk through a town in like 1 minute type thing. But they're actually looking into doing their own Pride Parade because they're concerned about kids going downtown, right? Being too young and what might happen to them down there. So they want to give them a safer space to be able to celebrate Pride. So I thought that was really cool that they're looking into that kind of thing.
I love a Pride for kids. Right now it's mostly for adults who have already figured their stuff out or friends of adults who are
kids
marching. Right?
There will come
kids do too.
Kids do too. There are a couple of things I was thinking about. One of them was acceptance. Back to what I was saying about acceptance. One of the problems that I'm seeing is people don't accept other people because they don't understand or they've been told not, all of that's their baggage. It shouldn't be your baggage. So I've been thinking a lot about that. It's like, hey, okay, let's pretend that I am Orthodox, religious, or whatever, and I don't accept homosexuality. I shouldn't make that your baggage. That should be my baggage.
Right.
And I accept you for who you are and draw the line. We all have a friend who's that's exactly the way he views it. And I deeply respect that. That's the way he actually sees it. It's not your problem, it's his. So you're not going to get any of it.
I've had a couple instances where like reality comes crashing through my brain's preconceived notions of things where I have to think about things. Sure. My biggest thing is I do have gut reactions, but I usually think about it before I say something, and then I will give you a rational or sometimes irrational screaming rant. It kind of just depends. But either way, I've got
this process. You, though.
So my best friends who come out and hang out all the time, they are a couple. They are 20 years apart. And Jim and Randy, my in-laws, are also like 20 years apart. And sometimes I forget that like ageism is a weird thing sometimes. So I was looking up Stephen Fry and like his boyfriend, and I was like, wow, his boyfriend's kind of young for him. And my friend was like, okay, so what do you think about us? And I was like, oh no.
Here I am digging this hole. Just tell me when to stop.
I don't know them. I don't know their life. I just got caught up in like the celebrity gossip for a second. I was like, that was really dumb. I'm really sorry.
Well, did they survive?
Really stupid.
Does it fit the creepy test formula? Which is, I believe it's half your age plus 7, I think it is.
Is that what it is? I don't know. My friends fit together very well. Jim and Randy fit together very well. They're good couples. They do good things for each other. They also fight like crazy people, but like that's just part of their relationship and that's part of their dynamic. So it's fine. They are fine. They're happy. They're content. They are two consenting adults, for Christ's sake. Like what I say does not matter. And also ageism is real bad. Okay. I'm getting better about it, but it's my gut reaction of like,
there are like, I could see some of it. My dad is 78 and my stepmom is 60. Mm-hmm. So there is a gap. In fact, my dad is almost as old as my stepmom's mom, who lives next door.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an interesting dynamic, but everybody seems to be fine. Now, I think part of it is that we all sort of think it's actually probably okay after people have developed their brains and stuff like that. And so after 25 or whatever, it stops becoming a problem. Right. You have a guy dating an 18-year-old and he's 45. That's a little creepy. But if
like an instant cringe. I have instant cringe. But I don't know their circumstance. Like that 18-year-old might be more of an adult than you ever know, right? Like it is entirely circumstantial. Like I said, nothing is ever black and white. And my first instinct is to cringe, and my second instinct is like,
well, we don't know what the situation is.
I don't know.
But it also seems to fit better if they're 45 and she's 25. That's not as bad. You know what I mean? Once we get past that, the frontal lobes all set in and everything's, then you're more willing to accept that maybe she made a logical decision based on something she, And same
no longer a child. Don't mess with children. Really, for the love of God, who doesn't really exist in my book.
Brain settled in. She made her choice. She's good. She probably logically made a right choice.
But there's that natural bias in me that auto cringes. You know what I mean? But I don't need to make a comment on this. Is why with the Black Lives Matter movement, I was sharing stories and pieces on Twitter that were from Black people who are actively going through this discrimination and these protests. Sure. I did not feel the need to add my white lady sitting at home nerd braining because we were worried about our family here because it was during COVID. We made a decision not to march, even though Tyler and I were very passionate about it, because we needed to be physically safe. And we supported monetarily and we supported by sharing things. So that was what we could do in our circumstance, right? You always have to figure out what you can do after you have done your research and your depth of understanding.
Yeah.
And again, going back to social media during that point, I had an argument with somebody who said the Irish were the first slaves in America, really, when they were indentured servants who chose indentured servitude to come over and take the time. And that's why we have the word indentured servitude. It was a very long and complex situation where I was like, you need to not be posting about white people right now because it's not the point. You're taking away and you're making a lot of people upset with you by your ignorance. Yeah. And this is why you're being ignorant. And we did have a long conversation. It did not get far, but I am happy to have had that conversation because I had to have it again several times during the Black Lives Matter movement, which is still ongoing. I should point out, it is always ongoing. It is always a discussion that needs to happen until racism is no longer a thing in America. I don't know if it will be anytime soon, but it is a continual discussion.
You can always hope. I mean, I was having the same discussion with somebody who doesn't live in America, and their response, I said, right now, I mean, we've got an issue. If you just look at just statistics, the majority of the people in our prisons are Black. And he said, well, the majority of the people in our prisons are white. And I'm like, well, congratulations. Yeah, beat that statistic. That doesn't necessarily
Was he from a different country or a different state?
He was from a different country. And so I said, I'm glad you beat the statistic, but we didn't.
You're in this outlier. I know you're trying to help, but this is actually not helping. This is making things worse.
Right. And if you follow the history of it, you can see that every step of the way it was set up built upon racism,
right,
to lead to that.
And the whole point I was trying to get at was, even if you just look at today's operations and just take statistical samplings, myself, I haven't been pulled over since 2005, but you ask my buddy who's a person of color, he's been pulled over twice this year. Right? I mean, and he usually is pulled over once to twice a year. I taught him to drive, so it's not his driving. I've ridden with him. I know it's not his driving. He drives the same model and almost the same year as my wife, who also hasn't been pulled over since 2007 or something like that.
He drives your wife?
Yeah.
Weird.
Same model car. But he lives and works here in this suburb.
Mm-hmm.
So, all factors being equal, shouldn't be pulled over that often.
Right.
And he is.
It's also a customer service thing now that I'm back in retail in a front-facing job. Since I'm working at Barnes & Noble, I'm making sure to greet every customer as they come in, right?
Yeah.
I'm making sure that I am talking to everyone equally and spreading my time equally amongst all my customers. I'm not trying to just find customers who look like they're lost. And this is something a manager that I didn't really get along with. I feel like this manager and I got off on kind of the wrong foot, but it's more that she is just a very mission-oriented person.
Right.
Because she comes from a military background, and it took me a little while to get used to her and to realize that she is mission-oriented, and she is mission-oriented about different things than I am. I'm very focused on like customers who look like they need help. She's focused on every customer that comes in the store is asking to be treated like you would want to when you come in. Whether you're looking for something or not, you should greet them. You should chat with them. You should try to connect with them. And it widened my scope, right? It broadened my vision, which is fantastic.
That reminds me.
My mindset, and she made my mindset, both hers and mine combined. So now
customer service thing reminds me of something I've yet to, I touched on this occurred to me while playing the game, and I've yet to actually bring this up to anybody. But if you want to know what it feels like to be a person of color going into a store, then play a little bit of the game Animal Crossing and go into the store. They follow you around the entire store the entire time. No matter where you go in that store, that character in Animal Crossing will not leave you alone. Yeah, and I thought, this is probably what it's like to be a person of color when you walk into a store, from what I've heard. So,
yeah. But I didn't really want to rabbit hole us into that.
Too late.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's an important part, though. It's a part of bandwidth. It's a part of like what's happening right now.
But it's also a part of acceptance. Like, we have a problem with designing artificial walls that make us not accept another person's situation, another person's pain, another person's existence. We build these artificial walls that tell us that, whatever is the term du jour that allows us to lock people away and tell them that they're not accepted, whether it be that you're black or white or transgender or gay or bi, or it's all of these walls that we artificially put in there. We don't have to have them. That can be our baggage and not your problem. And I'm really trying to like think this through, but that's part of kind of what you're saying when you're talking about the people who have to hate on something. It's part of putting an artificial barrier in there. And I think Troy is onto something about, it's like that when we were kids. And you're like in kindergarten, whatever, and you decided that Troy and I are going to go play this ball game, and you can't play because you're a girl. We've come up with no logical reason. There's no
I'm crashing your party with a bunch of ladies, and we're playing.
Right. We've made an artificial barrier for no reason whatsoever, except that now I feel like I'm closer to Troy. Yeah. Troy and I are buddies now because we've both agreed that Chelsea's the enemy because she's a girl.
And is it that connection, that like wall of strength around you? Is that what I don't see what people get from it, honestly.
I feel like it's a false sense of security. Like we could all be, you, me, and Troy could all be friends, but then I feel like you would take Troy away from me, or it would be weaker in some way if we weren't all just friends together. And I think that there's a certain mindset that has a hard time accepting everybody just being friends. You know what I mean? Like the same people who are like, well, you can't be friends with the Chinese because the Chinese are all evil.
I really don't see this like this wall of like people can't be kind to one another. I understand that people have bad days, and so they're going to have like maybe a bad attitude coming in. I get it, and I do try to be as aware of it as possible. It's so easy to be offended. It is so easy to be offended. Yeah. But is it so difficult to be kind? I mean, for example,
what I'm saying is I'm trying to like read through this and trying to understand, because I don't. For me, I went overseas. I lived in another country, and I pretty much lost that barrier when I realized that the Japanese people are just people. They're just folks.
They're people. They might have a different cultural appreciation, right? They were actually talking about that on Sunday morning. There was this couple who was talking about all the challenges they face, because not only are they two men, but one of them is Caucasian and one of them is Native American. And they've had to field a lot of things like smiling and greeting people. That's not in this person's tribe. Showing your teeth was like, and it had to be for actual joy, or it was to show, I can't remember what the other thing was, so I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be incorrect.
Right. You don't want
to. But it's not a big part of their culture, right? And so they have to navigate these inconsistencies in culture. We're all going to be different. You can slurp your noodles in Japan and it's not considered rude, but here, like, sometimes people get really weirded out when I'm with my ramen in the break room, like.
Right. Well, and I can't imagine, like, I've thought about this. What would have happened if I had married somebody who was Japanese? I'm very outgoing and everything like that, and the Japanese culture very reserved. It would have been a very structurally difficult. I mean, Mariah is still reserved, but at least she's not that reserved. You know what I mean?
No, she's definitely not that reserved. She knows, she speaks her mind. Like, you never have to worry about that. And even in public, she's going to stand up for herself. You know, she's not just going to stand there and take somebody being rude or inconsiderate. Yeah, it would be really difficult.
But I think that there is,
and also,
I think it has something to do with pain, like who hurt you, right? Because I feel like people have one of two choices about pain. They can either convince themselves that they will not be hurt again and build a wall, or they can accept the pain and move on. And it's hard to do those two things. I've
actively seen this. Yeah, because I have been a bully in my lifetime. I was bullied and then became a bully and decided I was being too horrible a person and stopped.
And it was a choice that you make because you were in pain. And I get it. I totally get that.
I didn't even think about that really.
And I think what happens is you get people who build upon that and build upon that and build upon that until they get to the point where they are just, they can't see past everybody is evil and they're all out to get me. And they're stuck there, you know, because you can take, we as humans have a bad habit of highlighting the bad things. It's what I call the red light law, because of that red light that I once thought a stop or a signal was red all the time. And then one time I actually took a piece of paper and marked every time it was red and every time it was green, and it was literally 50-50. But since there was no oncoming traffic at that intersection, it irritated me to stop at the red light, because I'd end up stopping and waiting 30 seconds for nothing. No other cars, no oncoming traffic, nothing. And so it irritated me. So I swore that light was red all the time. And it turned out it was literally 50-50. And it's because we remember the things that irritate us more than we remember the things that don't irritate us. So we start remembering all of our traumas, and they build.
And this also plays off of the book I'm reading right now. I'm reading Jenny Lawson's Furiously Happy, where she decided that she was just going to be ridiculously happy like 1,000% of the time. And it did help some of her depression.
Yeah.
You know, never mind like all the trauma.
It's legit.
Like really focusing on joy. And I have done that before. And I think this is another big thing too. Tyler and I talk about, we spend a lot of money on food. And sometimes we have this discussion with Jim and Randy, because they're like, why so much money on food? And I was like, do you not remember all these stories that you have of this joy of this one party set around food and friends? Tyler and I live for food and friends. That is so much better than like even saving up and going on a trip to eat food and be around friends or make new friends. Like that is also, we spend our money a lot more on experiences now than material things in our home, or at least we try to. I say with my new sheep blanket behind me, but that was needed for camping. But like we like to spend a lot of money on food, because sitting around a table, talking to people, eating really good food, drinking good wine, or even like just being able to sit down with a glass of water and spend time with people re-energizes us. And that is our downtime, right? Other people like to be alone and they like to be invited. Like I have a very introverted friend I saw last night, and he's like, yeah, I like seeing you once in a while. he's about to fly to Switzerland. So of course we had to have dinner, and he's like, it was good to see you. I will see you in a couple months. And that's fine for him, right? So different people need different things as well. And I think we forget how varied we truly are. We are definitely not all the same. And we spend our money on and our time on different things. But if somebody says, hey, like, I love it when we sit down and have dinner together and just hang out for 4.5 hours on a Thursday night, then do that, because it brings so much joy. And reminding yourself that these things bring joy is good, because if you are in a depressive spiral, like I was last week, we went to dinner with friends and I was kind of doing the like, well, I don't really feel like going because I've been crying all day. I'm really dehydrated. We went and I had a great time, and it turned my whole week around in like 2 minutes of being there. As soon as we saw them, basically, I was so happy to be there and so content to see them. And you forget that.
There's a big crime that we are committing as a culture, and that is understanding isn't agreement.
Yes,
and we make
it definitely is not.
Understanding is agreement, and so we make people afraid to understand. And so I don't understand you. I can't ask you, because then I would have to agree, and I'd be in my mind, and therefore it's better to just block you out, because I don't want to understand.
You could go away even saying like, I don't know what to think about that. Let me ponder on it for a week, and I would be offended.
But I mean,
other people might be really offended you don't have something right now.
And I've had that problem before. Whenever I say I understand what's going on with the Muslim world in the Middle East, and then immediately it's, oh, so you support terrorism? No, I just understand what's going on.
It's so complicated too, right? You are allowed to live in complex worlds. You know what I mean?
At least I understand. I understand why Hamas is upset. I understand why the Palestinians are upset. It doesn't mean I think that they're right. Yeah. I understand why Israel's upset too. I don't know if I think that they're right. I don't know.
I got new perspective on something similar, by the way. Recently, I was just reminded of this. I had a client come in and say, well, I wanted to buy a book, but my nephew, actually, she is my niece now. I don't know what to get her because she is 12 and transgender, and I am lost. And I said, okay, that's a lot to unpack. You know, why don't we do a gift card? And the man was like, yeah, a gift card sounds like a great idea. I don't want to offend. I'm going to go with the purple gift card because it's both pink and blue, and she likes Harry Potter still, so I think we're okay with that. And I was like, awesome.
What's cool is that they're trying.
They're trying so hard.
Yeah. They
want to accept. He kept saying, like, I'm having a lot of trouble with this because she's 12. I was not worried about this stuff when I was 12. I was doing these things, and I was like, well, when did you, like, what time frame are you growing up in, right? Because if you're growing up in, in the 60s or the 70s, you have war happening, and they are trying to distract you, just like we are growing up in COVID times, and we're trying to distract ourselves. But there is a lot more openly gay people and transgender people in the media right now than there probably were when you were a kid. Is that correct? And he's like, that is definitely correct. And I was like, for me, I've always considered myself a female. I have never wondered, but I have a very dear childhood friend of mine that I didn't know was uncomfortable in her own skin until I finally saw her at a Christmas party. She was scared that I was going to be there, and I was so ecstatic. I was so happy to see her, and she seemed more comfortable, a little less shy than she used to be. And it was a joy to catch up again. I hadn't seen her in like a decade. And she's like, I was worried you were going to be confused that I'm not Walker anymore. And I was like, you are Jessica to me now. This is where we are. This is okay.
People are people, so why should it be you and I should get along so awfully?
Well, and that's the thing.
That's very poignant, though.
It is. It's true, and people.
There's a lot of fear,
and it's fear. It's fear to accept. To understand is to accept, and maybe they don't want to accept it right now, and maybe they don't want to. But like my friend says, that's my business, not yours, and I shouldn't make it your business. And I agree with that, and I think that that's wise. And I think one of the problems we've got is that if I understand what's going on with you, then I have to accept it. Ergo, I have to accept it, and I think that causes people to back off, right? Like, here's the deal.
Bring each other joy. Jeez,
some part of and that's that. I think bringing us back to the Star Trek fans, the Trekkies, who can't seem to.
Mm-hmm.
If they understand why we like Discovery, then they have to ergo accept it, right? They have to agree that Discovery is good in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
So they must rail against it and continue to tell you that they rail against it so that they can verify that they do not accept it, because we've made that connection that understanding equals agreement.
Right. And I understand that, like, I promote this big motion of like joy and happiness and love and acceptance. And I do dislike many things. I get that.
Sure.
I don't like EA and I don't like Ubisoft for the things that they do as companies. That doesn't mean and I still vote with my dollar, right? I make my opinions known, and people are allowed to, people come to me and they're like, I love Assassin's Creed. It's great. And I'm like, I am so happy that brings you joy. These are the problems I have with this company. What brings you joy about these games? It is a conversation. I'm never going to shut you down and be like, well, I don't like Ubisoft, so get out. It's more like if you are being a toxic person saying, I hate this so much and it's stupid and you like it, so you suck. And I'm going to tell you how much you suck. That is the difference for me. We are allowed to have our opinions. We are allowed to change those opinions, most importantly. But I think the biggest thing is we need to have more conversations. People act on the internet in ways that they wouldn't act in real life. I am trying to do both as equally as possible, because I use Facebook, like I said, to communicate with people, because sometimes I'm so socially awkward, I can't tell you in person. So I'm going to write a letter, and it's going to go on Facebook as a letter to everyone. Just FYI, please stop being rude about this, because it's not funny. Your jokes aren't funny. Your criticism is not conducive, and you are jerks. So please stop being a jerk about this.
I think that as a culture, if I were to recommend anything, we should all learn that understanding something doesn't mean you have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand and not agree, and that is okay. And we need to stop with the we need to stop with the agreement, or understanding equals agreement.
And you can not understand something and just be chill about it.
Right. And if you don't understand something, that's cool.
Ask. You can always ask.
Learn. Or if nothing else, deep breath. And deep breath. Discovery and Picard are here to stay. Strange New Worlds is here to stay. Lower Decks is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Deep breath. It's okay. If you don't want to watch it, don't. I'm okay with it.
Go back and watch your favorite and tell us why. And so they're not going anywhere. Dreamcatcher is here to stay.
They are here to stay.
My sweet babes.
It's not my favorite Stephen King story.
That one's not here to stay. Oh, wait.
I had a customer too yesterday who was like, I have to read a mystery novel and I don't really like mysteries. So can you guide me to Stephen King? Because I like horror. And he's like, do you like mystery? And I was like, listen, I love a good cozy mystery, which some people hate. I love Mary Higgins Clark. But I do like Stephen King as well. We just had a pleasant conversation.
I have a real problem where King got way too much into, everybody was worshiping King for being king. And so they didn't edit his books. I have a problem with some of those books because they're like, writing problems.
Somebody edit this, please.
I used to be an English teacher. It's a thing.
Is a beautiful thing.
All Star Trek is important.
Just let people love what they love and who they love and unless it is damaging them, and then maybe say something. But I think the biggest thing is just open up the conversation and remember that you need to be nice and gentle and constructive.
We all need
it's not hard. Accepted.
Everybody needs to be accepted, and that they need to belong. And the worst thing you can do is ostracize. And so if you are a person who's going out there and ostracizing people, be it because you're saying that they don't belong because they like new Star Trek or whatever, you're the one who's doing the damage.
So don't go out there and turn people into big flightless birds with long necks and long legs.
That lay really big eggs.
And stick their heads in the ground.
So. Ostrich size.
So I think that's a good moral to end on.
I think so too. And that's all the time we have for today. And I won't give you the sarcastic Vulcan salute.
It's not cool when you do it. Oh, it's still cool.
I do. People will get their thumb out, but I don't mean it in a mean way. People do this.
Being able to totally do the sarcastic Vulcan salute has made my entire world. Thank you, Ensign Mariner. I am so on board with this. Thank you so much for joining us, Joan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And Matt's out there too on Twitch. Hi, Matt.
Yeah. So that's about all the time we've got for today. So we will see you next week, hopefully with Chelsea and all of us at our normal time at night. Until then, Chelsea, I hope you have a lot of fun with your family. And so that's always an important thing. And yep, Joseph was here too. Hi, Joseph. Yay. Good to see you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Hi, Joe.
And what's that? Be sure to like and subscribe stuff for Unicorns Explode.
Yep. All the things with all of it. I was going to talk about overload with social media, so that'll have to be our discussion next week.
On social media.
On social media.
Sounds good.
Until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
I'm in Chelsea.
That's your cue.
And this is Geek Day.